Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to carry on with our beginner introduction to Fusion. I'm going to have a go at modelling a drinks bottle. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to insert a canvas for something we can actually trace around. I'm going to go to insert and go to canvas. And on my desktop I've got a canvas. I will share the links to these in the description as well. And it's going to ask you to put it on a plane somewhere. So we talked about in the first Lego brick video, a plane essentially is like a flat piece of paper where you can draw something. Same thing, you need a canvas, needs to have a flat surface to put it on. I'm going to just put it on this surface here. And I'm going to zoom in a bit and you see it's come in. Now, it's back to front. It doesn't really matter because it's symmetrical, but if you want to flip that around, you can mess with these here, like that. And then all I'm going to do is bring it up into position and hit OK. Now, we brought that in, and I don't actually know what size that is. So what you can do is you come under canvases here, if I right click and go to calibrate, I get this crosshair on my mouse. So I'm going to click here and at the bottom, and it's going to say how big do you want it to be. And we're going to do a small Coke bottle around 15 centimeters tall, so do 150 ml, enter, and it will calibrate the size. And then all I'm going to do is right click and edit canvas and just bring that back up to the origin like that. Okay, so really useful if, say, you've got a complex shape and you've drawn it by hand, you've scanned it in, not taken a picture on your phone, you can essentially take that, bring it into Fusion and trace around it. So it just means being accurate with more complex shapes is really, really easy to do. Once again, like before, I'm going to give this a save. And then autosave will kick in, and we're going to start a sketch. I'm going to choose it on this front plane here. So what we're going to do to make this shape is do what's called a revolve. So we're going to draw half of the shape of this and then revolve it all the way around. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a line. So we go to create and line, or the keyboard shortcut L. So I'm going to hit L on my keyboard, come to the origin and just come straight up. Now all I'm making sure at the minute was that that line is perfectly straight up and down at 90 degrees. I'm then just going to draw this little top bit here. Again, I'm going to hit line, so L for line. I'm going to come across. I'm not going to go exactly that size because I'm going to do the inside bit and then the cap that goes with it. So I'm going to come there and draw down. And again, the key thing here is making sure that these two lines we've just done are perfectly straight. What you don't want to happen is your line to be slightly off. So even if it's like 90.2 or 89.3 degrees, it needs to be exactly 90th of what we're going to do in a minute. I'm then going to just draw these bits like that, and then hit line again and just draw this straight line here. So these are the parts where it's always going to be guaranteed a perfectly straight line. So all we've done so far is draw that origin and then just with a straight line drew these parts, ensuring that this line here is perfectly at 90 degrees to the top. Now we've got to try and do these curves. Now the really easy way of doing this is if you go to create and spline and fit point spline, or it normally is on the shelf there. So how this works, if you click and then click and click, and it basically freehand draw like that. If you click and then once you're done, you can either double click or you can hit that arrow. If you hit escape, it will undo it. And then what you can do as well is if you grab these handles, you can tweak the shape slightly. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to grab fit point spline. And because we've already got these points in place, I can snap to it. And what we want to try and do is just follow the profile of it. You want to try and have as few points as possible. Basically, every time the contour of the shape starts to change slightly is when you need to start doing it. And I'm going to stop there. So I'm going to click. I'm going to move down and then just join up these ones as well. So just coming along, trying to avoid having too many points because then it starts to mess up a little bit. It gets quite difficult to control. Like that. And I'll just hit escape. So what we're going to do is do fit point spline again. And do that just so you can see. So that's why make sure you click that arrow or you double click. I'd like to do that on purpose, but I just forgot and pressed escape as a force of habit. totally did it intentionally, I promise you. So follow our way around. Now I'm just going to double click. Now I hit escape. You'll see if I hover over it, it will go blue. If yours doesn't go blue, what it means is somewhere there is a gap, and that means it's not a closed profile. This is what's called a closed profile. I'm going to finish sketch, and last time we used extrude, so we clicked on there or the E on the keyboard. We want revolve this time. Well, there isn't a keyboard shortcut for revolve, but we're going to click on it, and it normally will select the profile thickness you're going to revolve, and it's going to say the axis. What do you want to revolve around? And that's why we drew this line down the middle here. So I'm going to click on that and hit OK. If I turn my canvas off a second, pretty easily we've got the overall shape of a bottle. So we're going to start to add in some more details, and remember down at the bottom, sorry about that, we've got our history, and then we've now got body starting to appear here as well. So before we do anything else, let's hollow this out. So easiest way to do that, like we did with the Lego brick, I'm going to come to Shell or Modify and Shell. I'm going to click on this surface here. I'm going to type in about 1 mil. You can do the slider and alter it as you like, so just sort of trial and error about what works well. If it fails, so sometimes you might find Fusion starts to like loading, and you get like a little green bar down here because it's thinking of something. Typically it means the command is going to fail because you've done something that it can't calculate, and it kind of has a moment, doesn't really like it. So sometimes it's better to put in like really small numbers and just sort of work your way up until you find the sweet spot. So I'm going to click OK. And if I look inside, you can see we've now got a hollow bottle. So what we're going to do now is going to start to model the lid. So we want the lid to fit perfectly around this surface. So far we've been in solids. Now I talked in the first video about being in different workspaces. We're actually going to jump over to another one now. So notice our solids all blues. I'm going to click on surface, and you notice it's all gone oranges. Okay, we're going to go to create and offset. And you can say what surface or body do you want to offset. I'm going to click on that surface there. I'll just drag this arrow, you can see what's happening. It's basically just mimicking that surface and wrapping itself around it, and I can dictate how much of an offset I want it to be. So I'm going to do something like 0.5. I'm going to hit OK. And if I turn off this first body here, you see we've got another body appearing, but rather than being a solid white cylinder there, we've got the orange symbol. That means it's a surface, and the surface essentially is just paper thin. So it's not actually a body you can do much with. Now I want to put a top on that, so I'm going to create and patch and click on that surface. And then we've got another one. So they're two separate ones. We want them to be together. So if you go to modify now and go to stitch, or it is the one up here, if you click on both of them, if a green line appears, it means it's going to stick it together. So if you keep an eye on these two here, and I hit OK, it becomes one. So it's now one shape, but it's still paper thin. I now want to make it thicker. So I'm going to create and thicken. If I grab both of those surfaces and start to drag, you see it starting to thicken it up. I'm just going to drag it so it sort of matches up what we want. And again, keep your eye on here. I'm going to click OK. And it's now created a solid body. It's still got the surface that we created, but it's also now created the body for the lid that we want. So what we're going to do now is start to add a few more little details. So let's just take the bottle first. Now this is where it gets a little bit confusing about remembering which workspace you're in. We're still in surface. We know we're still in surface because it's orange. If I jump over to solid, it's blue again. This is where we want to be. Most of the time you're going to want to be in solids, and you just sort of dip in and out of other workspaces as you go. So I'm going to go to create and thread. I'm going to click on that surface, and this is why at the start I made a big deal about making sure that this was a perfectly straight 90 degrees. If it isn't highlighting there, it's not going to let you do a thread. So the best thing to do is to go back and edit that sketch to make sure it's a perfect 90 degrees. I'm going to click on this surface, and you get these options. You get, at the minute, if I click OK, it's kind of put a picture of a thread on there, and it looks a bit naff. For want of a better word, it doesn't look very good. So I'm going to come down here, right click, edit feature. I'm going to select models. Okay, and it's going to start to model it. Now the problem I've got here is that the thread is cutting into the surface of my thing. So what I'm going to do is come to my shell, and let's change that slightly. Let's do maybe like 1.5. Let's try that and do modeled still. So what we're going to do, it's just a little bit of trial and error. You can always go back and change features. Let's do 2 mil thick. Edit feature, modeled. And there you go. So now you can see, you can always go back and change those features at a later date. So we've got the thread for our bottle. What I'm going to do as well is just quickly add a little fillet onto there. Nothing much, like a 0.1, something quite small. So the bottle modeling side of things is done. We're going to bring back our lid and our canvas. And you'll see that on the lid, essentially you've got like these little grooves like gripping, so you can actually like open it. So we're going to start to add some details in, but one thing I'm going to do first, let's grab the fillet, let's just bring that in like that. And then we want to create a sketch on there, but if you're trying to create a sketch, you can't do a sketch on a curved surface. But what you can do is if you go over here to construct, you've got loads of different kinds of planes that you can create. We want a tangent plane. So if you look at the tangent plane, it will let you do a plane tangent to a cylindrical shape. So if I go on tangent, click on that, and if you go up and see what's happening, essentially it's making sure the plane is touching the surface of that cylinder. I'm going to click on OK. Turn back that canvas and create a sketch. Now what I want to do is, like with the Lego brick, I'm going to project some geometry so that I can sort of use it as a reference. I can hit P on my keyboard or come to Create, Project. I'm going to click on Bodies and click on that. And all that's done, if I come out, it's just traced around that so I know I'm drawing in the right place. I'm then going to hit L for line, just to find the middle. And all I'm doing at the minute is just creating this just so that I can essentially use it as a reference to draw. So I've just done all those lines, and I'm going to hit T on my keyboard because that will let me trim. So it's under Modify and Trim, or T. And I'm just doing that. And the whole reason I've done all of that is so I can create a rectangle, or R. Go to center front rectangle, come to the middle, and just draw a rectangle like that. So you find sometimes with sketches you do a lot like construction lines just to sort of make sure things line up. I'm going to finish sketch, and then what I'm going to do, turn that canvas off for a second. Let's go to E for extrude and grab that, and then just drag in back. Now turn that off for a second and drag in. Now I've dragged it too far, so we can always go back and change that. Let's drag that in a little bit. Okay. Now what I want to do is just fillet those edges slightly. So modify and fillet, or F. And then let's do quite a small fillet, 0.1, 2.2. Now I've got to do loads of those, and that would be quite a pain to have to do. So what we're going to do is go to Create and Pattern and do Circular Pattern. And you get this pop-up. Now, at the minute, it's set to Object Type. We don't want that. I'm going to change that to Features, and then I can grab these features down here. So I can grab that extrude, and I can grab that fillet. And axis is what do you want to rotate it around. So I'm just going to grab that circle there. And if I start to pump this number up, you'll see what's going to start to happen is it does that pattern all the way around for you. So rather than have to do it all individually and quite probably struggle to get it exactly where you want, very, very easy way of doing that. So I'm going to add a few more details. So we've got that break along there. So for now, I'm just going to create a sketch anywhere on this plane here for now. And all I'm going to do is zoom in, hit L for line, and just draw a line straight across like that. And finish sketch. So what I'm going to do now is just go to Modify and Split Body, which is there, or click on Split Body, click on that body, and click on this line. So that split body, if you see what's happening, it's just going to cut that off. So if you see now, there's now two different bodies. The whole reason I'm just doing that is that if I go to here and create and pipe and just click on that line, I'm going to make that smaller. 1. Okay. You see it does that little divot. And then I can just combine those back together again. So modify and combine, or is this tool here? Like that. And then what I'll do is just add a couple of fillets just to make it softer. Remember, much like I said with the Lego brick, nothing, unless it's like a knife, has a perfectly like straight edge. There's always a slight fillet or something, and that's what tends to make people's work look less realistic. So I'm going to turn that canvas off. So we've got our Coke lid exterior. We're going to add a thread to the inside as well. So let's go to thread. Like that. So the modeling side of that is done. So we can bring those back and we'll start to add some material. So I'm going to hit A for appearance, or remember it's on the modify and appearance. I'm then going to come in and let's go to plastic and we'll go to transparent first. I'm going to grab that acrylic clear. And then for the top, we'll go to like paint, glossy, and take like this red. Now this red we're going to change. So if you double click on it, go to advanced, you can change the details of it a little bit. So I'm going to click on here, color. I'm going to put the hex code in for Coca-Cola. So I've got it open on my other screen. I'm just going to hit paste. Well, let me select, let's type it in. Just F4 0 0 0 0. Not that one zeros. Yes, it is. Okay. That's Coke red. Okay. And I'm also going to turn the glossiness down. So I'm going to turn the roughness up so it's a little bit less glossy. Don't know if you can see it updating as we're doing it that, but I'm going to just bring that to like 2 and hit enter. So that's just changed that slightly. Okay, so next thing we're going to do is add a decal, like a label for that. So much like we did when we were adding like imperfections and like scratches and stuff in the previous introduction video. I'm going to go to insert, I'm going to go to decal, and then I have got this label and it's asking me what face to put it on. So I'm going to click on this face here. And I'm going to just want to rotate it around. I'll do 90 degrees. I'm going to drag up to make it for everything. You see it's going a bit weird here. So what I'm going to do here is, this says chain faces. I'm going to untick chain faces and it will get rid of that. I'm going to continue just to make it bigger. And then what we can do is rotate it how you want. Okay. So at the front, so we've now got our bottle and our label. Okay, so you see here, 2 bodies, bottle and label are there. You can always jump into render to see how it's starting to look. So what we want to do is start to add a little bit more detail. So it's worth starting to think about when you're doing like modeling and rendering, how can you start to make things look a bit more like realistic and give it context. So we're going to add some liquid to the inside of this. So I'm actually going to turn off the lid for now. And then I'm going to go up here to inspect and to section analysis. Now this is one of the coolest tools, but I'm easily amused. It's going to ask you what surface or what plane do you want to use. I'm going to click on this. And if you see what's happening, I'm going to rotate that one. It's just cut it in half. And I can drag this and I can make it more or less like that. And if I hit OK, and we can turn that off again. So we've now got an analysis folder in our tree. Turn it off. So it's not actually cut in half, it's just section analysis. It's really useful if you have to do like internal bits of a model. So what we're going to do is add some liquid into there. So I'm going to jump back over to surface and I'm going to go to offset again. And what I'm going to do is just grab the inside here like that. And then I'm going to bring it in, and I want to bring it in not by much, something like 1 mil, maybe even less than that. Should we do like a 0.5? Yeah, okay. So if I turn that analysis off, you can see it is all the way around. And then if I turn that off, you can see it's there. So much like with a lid, let's go to create and patch. And again, we've still got 2 bodies there, but this time I'm going to stitch together. And again, it's turned into a solid body. So we've now got something we can start to add as liquid. What I'm going to do is just bring that down a bit. So I'm going to press pull and just start to bring that down a little bit, just to see how much. Bring down something like that. Turn these off. I'm just going to fillet that edge slightly. Something quite small, like a 0.1, maybe a bit more than that. Like that. Now again, we're going to add some materials to that. So I'm going to hit A. Now, funnily enough, Coca-Cola is not a material inside Fusion you can apply. But we'll sort of bodge something together a little bit. So let's go to transparent. Let's go to this one here. So you see what's going on. It kind of looks dark, but a little bit transparency. Turn those on so you can see what's going on. Something like that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to alter that material a bit more. So at the minute, it's just like this solid material. So I'm going to go to A. And I'm going to double click on this material here and go to advanced. So if you've ever used like 3D software, modeling software before, like Maya or Blender or that sort of thing, you might know a bit more about what some of these terms mean. Don't get too bogged down. I do have other videos to look at like materials, but Fusion's decent rendering and you can tweak materials slightly. So it's worth like sort of knowing how to do. So this is like the material we've got. We're actually going to change that color again. So I've got the Coca-Cola brown hex code. So I'm going to just copy this in. Okay, so it's 422801. That's that brown. But then what I'm going to do, if I come here to relief pattern, I'm going to add a bump map. Now a bump map or a normal map is what these sort of purple things are. And that's what sort of give things more 3D like details to them. And that's why I mentioned like Maya and Blender. If you've ever like done nodes of materials, you'll be familiar with these type of things. I'm just going to grab this normal map that I've already got here. And you see what's happening? It's starting to add some bubbles to it. Now at the minute, it doesn't look great. But I'm going to grab it. If I mess with the scale a little bit, in fact, what I might do, let's change. I've got a different bump map. So let's grab, say, this one. And then let's mess with the scale a little bit. You sort of see what's going on. Hit OK. And then I'm going to turn everything back on again so you can still see there's sort of like bubbles inside of that. And then I'm going to jump into render to have a little look. Okay, so the modeling side of the bottle is done. So all I'm going to do is sort of like add a bit more context is add a glass to it as well. So I'm going to insert another canvas. So I'm going to go to insert canvas. And I have got this Coke glass. Bring it up, make it a bit bigger, sort of like that sort of size. I'm going to hit OK. Now I'm going to do it in pretty much the same way. So I'm going to go to sketch. I'm going to do a line and come straight down the middle. And then do the top. And then do the bottom. And again, we're going to revolve. And then we'll use hit point spline again. Just sort of trace around this as we're doing it. again, you see that's now a closed profile. Let's finish sketch, go to revolve, grab that. So we've now got the startings of our glass. Then I'm going to follow it out, give it a shell, do something like 2 mil. I'm going to start to add a few more little details like those little grooves that we have inside. So if I turn off that body for a second, like these little indents. So I'm going to give this a quick little save. I'm going to go out to construct now, and this time I'm going to create an offset plane. Now, we've got these normal planes here. If I grab an offset plane here, I can move that to where I want. So I'm just going to pull it out. Because what I'm then going to do is create sketch, hit P for project to grab that shape, and I'm going to create and slot and center slot. I'm going to come up and just draw about halfway, a little groove like that. But what I'm actually going to do is do it a little bit higher up. I don't want it to be too close to the edge. So what we'll do, let's redo that. So let's go slot, center slot, come up. Something like that. And finish sketch. So what we want to do is imprint that shape onto here. So if we go to create and emboss, we can then grab this profile and I'll say what face. I'm going to click on this face here. So as you can see, it's sticking out, but we can change that from embossing to debossing. It'll go in. I'm going to hit OK, but we don't want to go in 2 mil because if you see what will happen, that'll cut all the way through our glass. So let's do like minus 0.5. OK. Okay, and then we forgot to grab the bottom of that profile. So I'm just going to grab this part of the profile. So let's grab that. Okay, so that's there. Let's then just fillet the edges. So I'm going to hit F on my keyboard for fillet. So I've done that too big, so let's do like 0.1, 2, 3. So do like a 0.3, and then let's do internal as well. This might end up being too much. Oh no, that's fine. So we're going to hit OK. So then what we're going to try and do is let's create a circular pattern. So circular pattern, back to features. Let's grab that emboss and that fillet. Axis there, and again like before, let's pump up those numbers a bit. I'm going to hit OK, and you're going to find now it's probably going to want to think because an emboss is actually quite a complex calculation for it to try and do. So you might end up with this like green thing. And like calculate what's going on. So be patient, don't click anywhere because if you start doing that, that green bar is normally Fusion is thinking, but don't do anything. Okay. So, a few more little details here. Let's grab fillet and just drag that up a little. Let's do like a 0.2, maybe a bit more. Something like that. Fillet top bits as well. And then let's try, I'm not sure how well this will work, but let's give this a go. Let's go to construct offset plane. Because we could just leave that glass as is, but I wanted to just try something because I'm curious. Create sketch. I'm going to hit P for project. I'm going to go to text. And let's do a text box like that. Now I've downloaded, this is what I want to try. I've downloaded Coca-Cola font just because I wanted to see if it'll work on an emboss. It might not do, but we'll try it. So let's like that. Let's try the font size a bit smaller. Let's hit OK and finish. Okay, so what I want to try and do is let's see if it'll let us emboss. Emboss, grab that sketch. Just thinking about it. Okay, let's try. Okay, why are you not working? Let's emboss. And that might just be that it's quite a complex, because it's quite a weird in and out curve and quite a complex font. Okay, so that didn't work, but we wanted to try it anyway. Right, let's remove that sketch. I don't want it. Okay, so let's then hit A and let's grab a clear acrylic like that. Let's see how we're looking at render. So we've got our glass and our Coke. So we'll try 2 more things and see how it goes. So let's, just for now, so I can see what I'm doing, I'm going to actually put that back on there. I'm going to come back to surface. Let's go to create offset. Grab this surface here. Let's do like 0.2 or like 0.5, something like that. Okay. So we've now got this. Let's patch. So go to create. No, sorry, modify. No, I was right. Create and patch. Do the top and do the bottom. So now I've got 3 of those surfaces. Then let's stitch. So let's click there, green, stitch it together. Let's stitch the top together as well. Like that. We bring it all back. And grab this clear material. Jump back over to solid. Press pull. Let's grab that and drag that down a bit. Something like that. Turn that off. Let's just F for fillet or grab there. Do a very, very small fillet. Something like that. Let's then add in okay, see how that looks. So actually let's duplicate it. And then let's edit it like this. Let's try with our other map. So let's grab the big bubbles. See how this looks when we this with the scale. How's that looking? Not a fan. Okay, let's try like bubbles. Let's change the color. Let's grab that and do our color again, which was 422801. Okay. It's already got a bump up in there, so that's okay. But then let's scale that down a bit. Something like that. Turn everything back on. And then I think potentially last thing is let's add a couple of ice cubes. So what we're going to do for this is we've done solids, we've done surface. I'm actually going to come over here to create form. And last little bit, we're going to turn to purple. Now I really like the forms. I've got loads of videos on forms, but it's got quite a steep learning curve about what you can do with it. So we're going to create a shape. I'm going to just grab this box and it's going to say, where do you want to create it? I'm going to create it on top of where that Coke is. And now what I can do is just drag out and make like a box. So I'm going to make the general sort of size of an ice cube, like that type of thing. And if you come in, you see you've got this weird squashed looking thing. So we can start to add details in it. Now this is where, again, if you use like Maya or Blender, you'll know about faces, vertices, and edges. Again, don't get too bogged down with it at the minute. I'm going to drag this up a little bit, and what I might do is just add in a couple more edges on both sides. So it's got 4 and 4, like that. I'm going to hit OK. We're not going to do anything majorly complicated. We're just going to pretty much stick with that. But then what I'm going to do is right click, go to edit form. I'm going to get this pop up. And all I'm going to do is let's just grab a couple of these squares and just sort of push in a little bit. Just trying to make it look a bit more irregular. Sort of randomly selecting some parts. Something like that. So we're not really messing a great deal with forms. If forms interest you, like I say, I've got loads and loads of other tutorials on forms. I'm going to click on finish. I'm going to hit A for appearance. I'm going to grab another bubbles. So let's go bubbles, bring that up. Let's just hide that for a second. I'm going to put that on there. Hit close. And then what we're going to do is let's take this, move copy, sort of bring it into the glass so it's sort of like resting at the top. Rotate it around a little bit like that, and then I might copy and paste another one. So I'll take that, Control C, Control V to copy and paste. Bring this over here a little bit. Something like that. And then if I bring everything back, go into render, you can see that we've now got our Coke bottle and our Coke glass with some liquid in it and some ice cubes. So I'm going to give that a quick save. And then we're going to have another go at rendering. So last time we just went straight to render, but if you come to scene setup here and go to environment library, you've got loads of different lights that you can play around with. You can just grab it, drag it in, and sort of play around with which ones you think look best. They all have slightly different effects. So we do also, there are also environments you can add. You can kind of add in custom environments as well using HDRIs. I'll do a separate video on that because that's a whole other thing that is quite cool because it gives really, really good effects with lighting as well. Let's see how that's looking. Okay, it's looking very nice. So what we're going to do is I'll leave this to render, and then if you just stop a modeling there, stop there. But then what I'll do is I'll take these and put them over into Photoshop just to present it at the end as well. So hopefully you found that helpful and interesting. Got any questions, please let me know. Okay, so now that's finished rendering. All I've then done is come to download, and then make sure I've selected transparent background. So last thing we're going to do is jump over to Photoshop. Okay, so now that we are in Photoshop, all we're going to do is bring in our render and just basically put a nice background on it and put some highlights on it. Just going to click on to New File. I'm just going to stick on Default for now, it's fine. Go to File, Open, and then just grab our render. This one here. So the whole point obviously is we want transparent background, which means we can add stuff to it. So I'm just going to grab that, Control C, Control V, and just bring that in and just make it a bit bigger. And then what we'll do is let's grab a rectangle and just do a nice big rectangle there and just drag it underneath. On this one, let's go to Effects, go Blending Options, and we'll just do like a gradient overlay. Typically, normally I'll just do like a white and a grey, unless it's doing something very, very specific. And then with that, let's just go to Filter, Noise, and let's just add some noise. Convert to Smart Object, which is what we want to do. And then drag, you can sort of see what's going on. Do quite nice low number, like 5, maybe even lower than that, depending on where we want it to look, something like that. And then we've got to think about how we want to present the actual model itself. So let's just come to like Effects, and then Drop Shadow, Outward Glow. And then I think because it's all transparent, if we add a stroke, it might look a bit weird. Yeah, so we don't want to do that. So we might just leave it as that. And then what you might choose to do as well, if you want to grab that, if you go to like Image and Adjustment, you might then choose to mess around with some of these settings if you wanted to. So like shadows and highlights, you could choose to like add, like make things a little bit more, or make the red like really, really pop if you wanted to, or maybe try adding in more or less shadows depending on what you were after. But I am by no means a Photoshop expert. Normally what I'll do is I'll model in Fusion, take it into like a texturing software and then Photoshop to end, but I don't want things to get too complex at the minute because we're just starting you off. So that is modeling a Coke bottle and glass. Hopefully all is making sense and you're following along okay. If you've got any questions, please let me know.